It goes to the copy editor, whose job is to check its form and style. In the composing room, this man is setting the type for Charlie's story. In front of him, he has the copy, just as Charlie wrote it.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
President Kennedy and Governor John Connally have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas. They were riding in an open automobile when the shots were fired.
Welcome this kind of examination because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Thousands and thousands of West Germans come to make the point that the wall has suddenly become irrelevant.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
I've proven I have too much faith in humanity, Andrew, because they have made themselves even worse.
How many deaths are acceptable to me? None. Okay, none.
All of their coverage of him sort of ranges from misrepresentation to outright lies.
0 deaths on January 17th.
The entire
January, I said in January.
Your video has a complete gap.
On January 30th.
What did your administration do in February for the time that your travel ban bought
you? A lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot. Look. You know you're a fake.
Leading up to the election, former NWA rapper and actor Ice Cube was interviewed. In the interview, he talked about how a few months back, he had some ideas about improving the African American community. He reached out first to Biden to present his ideas and was told to wait. I don't think he wanted to wait, so then he reached out to the Trump campaign and got an immediate response, and his ideas were implemented immediately by Trump and his team. This caused a lot of outrage from his fans that he would even consider voting for Trump. When he was asked in the interview if he knew who he was voting for, he said he was still undecided. However, what he said after that was something that helped me gain some perspective in this 2020 election. What he said was, "My dad once said a long time ago, no matter who is president, you still got to get up and go to work in the morning." This is something that I think most Americans can relate to. Because whether our candidate wins or not, we still got to get up and do our job, regardless who the president is.
So I titled the prophecy Commander in Chief, and it says, "The Spirit of God says, I have chosen this man, Donald Trump, for such a time as this. For as Benjamin Netanyahu is to Israel, so shall this man be to the United States of America. For I will use this man to bring honor, respect, and restoration to America. America will be respected once again as the most powerful and prosperous nation on earth other than Israel. The dollar will be the strongest it has ever been in history of the United States and will once again be the currency by which all others are judged. The Spirit of God says the enemy will quake and shake and fear this man I have anointed. They will even quake and shake when he announces he is running for president. It will be like the shot heard across the world.
I am officially running for President of the United States."
The enemy will say, "What shall we do now? This man knows all our tricks and schemes. We have been robbing America for decades. What shall we do to stop this?" The Spirit says, "Ha, no one shall stop this that I have started. For the enemy has stolen from America for decades, and it stops now. For I will use this man to reap the harvest that the United States has sown for, and plunder from the enemy what he has stolen, and return it sevenfold back to the United States. The enemy will say, Israel, Israel, what about Israel? For Israel will be protected by America once again. The Spirit says, yes, America will once again stand hand in hand with Israel, and the two shall be as one. For the ties between Israel and America will be stronger than ever, and Israel will flourish like never before. The Spirit of God says, I will protect America and Israel, for this next president will be a man of his word. When he speaks, the world will listen and know that there is something greater in him than all the others before him.
And yes, together, we will make America great again.
This man's word is his bond, and the world and America will know this, and the enemy will fear this, for this man will be fearless. The Spirit says when the financial harvest begins, so shall it parallel in the spiritual for America. The Spirit of God says in this next election they will spend billions to keep this president in. It will be like flushing their money down the toilet. Let them waste their money, for it comes from and is being used by evil forces at work, but they will not succeed. For this next election will be a clean sweep for the man that I have chosen.
This is a result which may have confounded the pollsters and pundits, may shock the rest of the world. But the people who voted for and campaigned for Donald Trump, well, they aren't surprised he's now heading for the White House.
This week, the New York Post splashed with news of a trove of emails detailing Joe Biden's son's business dealings overseas. The emails reveal Hunter Biden had planned to introduce his father, who was of course then vice president, to an executive at a Ukrainian energy company, Burisma, a company where Hunter served on the board of directors. Publicly, Biden has said he's never spoken to his son about his overseas business dealings. But these emails seem to indicate otherwise.
Facebook is openly saying they have decided to internally stop the spread of this story on their platform, not because it's been proven false, because they just decided to. And it leaves us with the last excuse that the mainstream media knows exceptionally well to push when times are especially tough. You guessed it, it was Russia the whole time.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You have to be kidding. Here we go again with Russia.
So should there be the same treatment? Should there be a special counsel? Because when there was an email from Don Jr., the left went crazy.
Well, I think it's a shame that we're spending so much time in taxpayer dollars.
Wait, hold on. It's a shame trying to hold on. It's a shame trying to figure out if the man who's going to be running for president of the United States and wants to be president, it's a shame to figure out whether or not there was 10% of a Chinese company put aside for him. That's a waste of time.
Is our media really this one-sided that no one would cover a story with such big consequences for our nation? For some reason, as far as they are concerned, the story does not exist.
Well, here are the facts I know, and everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence. And the American people can judge for themselves. I brought, I guess, for record, 3 phones that spanned the years 2015 through 2018. These phones have never been held by anybody else besides myself. I was told this past Sunday by somebody who was also involved in this matter that if I went public this information, it would bury all of us, man. The Bidens included. I have no wish to bury anyone. To protect my family name and my business reputation, I need to ensure that the true facts are out there.
There will be every effort to censor, block, and stop you from hearing this information from the social media, from the Democrats, and tragically, from most of your networks that have, for over 2 years, been covering up crimes at the highest levels of several governments.
With charges so heinous, I'm not even going to say them. Just nonsense, crap.
Question is, why did Joe Biden lie about it? The New York Post, in its front page, demonstrates with a text from Hunter Biden that Joe Biden was fully aware of Burisma and has been lying about that for 7 years. That's a lot of lying. That only happens when you commit a crime.
It is an important story, as most Americans would be appalled by the vice president's son using his father's position to earn an enormous contract from foreign companies. But the response from many in the media and Twitter and Facebook bring to light an even bigger concern. The biggest social networks are selectively censoring information. If you are a citizen and posted information in the story, your account was locked. Last night, the Republican House Judiciary Committee posted the story on their website, a government website. And this morning, Twitter has censored it.
If there's really no evidence like they claim, why are they willing to go through such extreme measures to block a story in a way that our nation has never seen any news outlet do ever in the history of our nation? Also, they don't want to be the one media group, the one reporter that helped Trump. The news doesn't matter anymore. It is all about keeping Trump from being elected again.
Donald Trump would kill reporters if he could get away with it. He'd do, I think even his strongest supporters would admit, Trump would do whatever he could get away with.
What would the Bidens have to do for the media actually to cover a negative story about them and not try and destroy the evidence and block the story from getting out?
Though there is an enormous amount of detail and documentation that no one has refuted because it's real. The former vice president has said he had no knowledge whatsoever of his son's business dealings and was not involved in them at all. But this sounds like direct involvement in them.
Yeah, that's a blatant lie.
It does not matter how corrupt the Bidens are at this point, or how much he would hurt the nation. If it would help Trump get reelected as far as they are concerned, the story does not exist. That is above all else, no matter how much it hurts the people of this nation. They are willing to put their hate for Trump above everything and anything for some reason. What do they hate so much about the man? At this point, I really don't think the story can continue to be ignored. There is real evidence here, and it all points to Joe Biden being a very corrupt politician.
The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up.
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
In fact, the most corrupt politician that has ever run for president. Here we have a story about a man running for the highest office in the land, using his influence and power to make himself and family very rich. Putting his personal wealth and the wealth of his family over the American people? We deserve an explanation from Joe Biden. What is all this evidence? And who is this witness that is speaking out against him? Why does he contradict everything Biden has said about the story so far?
But for the Biden family to deny these facts, and then not only deny them, they could have just said no comment. But they didn't say no comment. They then brought in Russian disinformation and basically associated my name with that, which is absolutely disgusting to me. And I had to go on the record.
Who is telling the truth? The career politician?
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings with him?
Yes, I stand by that statement.
Or this Navy veteran? Even if you think the story is just a smear campaign, despite all the evidence, you should still wake up to the level of censorship that has taken place right before our eyes on this story. The media has just chosen not to do their job, and this is simply not okay.
But 2 weeks ago, Twitter, and to a lesser extent Facebook, crossed a threshold that is fundamental in our country. 2 weeks ago, Twitter made the unilateral decision to censor the New York Post in a series of 2 blockbuster articles, both alleging evidence of corruption against Joe Biden, the first concerning Ukraine, the second concerning communist China. And Twitter made the decision, number one, to prevent users, any user, from sharing those stories. And number two, you went even further and blocked the New York Post from sharing on Twitter its own reporting. And let's be clear, the New York Post isn't just some random guy tweeting. The New York Post has the 4th highest circulation of any newspaper in America. The New York Post is over 200 years old. The New York Post was founded by Alexander Hamilton. And your position is that you can sit in Silicon Valley and demand of the media that you can tell them what stories they can publish, and you can tell the American people what reporting they can hear. Is that right?
No, this was a, every person, every account, every organization that signs up to Twitter agrees to a terms of service.
Mr. Dorsey, who the hell elected you and put you in charge of what the media are allowed to report and what the American people are allowed to hear? And why do you persist in behaving as a Democratic super PAC, silencing views to the contrary of your political beliefs.
My hope is that we can change this at some point in the near future, and that the American people will be so disgusted by the poor job our media is doing, there will be a fundamental change in our nation with our media. I know it sounds maybe too good to be true, but I would have never thought it was possible until I came across this video clip.
But Taylor says there's one part of the prophecy that hasn't come to pass yet, regarding the news media.
Fake stories are being reported. A lot of bad things are being reported that aren't true.
So the news media would be captivated by him, and they would even begin to agree with him. That's the only line in a prophecy that hasn't come to pass yet. So we have to ask ourselves, what's fixing to happen to make the mainstream news media to begin to agree with him?
What is fixing to happen?
God's going to clean out the news media. God is looking for his people right now, his millionaires and his billionaires, basically, to come in and start investing in these places and buying them out, taking over. God's going to rebuild them and restore them because there's no spirit of truth in them right now.
This comes just one day after Twitter's CEO testified before a Senate committee defending the platform's policies and insisting they're playing fair. One day later, more cries of censorship from conservatives after the CBP commission was frozen for this post. CBP and the Army Corps of Engineers continue to build new wall every day. Every mile helps us stop gang members, murderers, sexual predators, and drugs from entering our country. It's a fact walls work. The tweet was posted as Commissioner Mark Morgan celebrated the completion of nearly 400 miles of barrier between the U.S. and Mexico, some of it 30 feet high, with improved roads, lighting, and cameras designed to deter human smugglers and other criminals from illegal crossings. But Twitter blocked the tweet and suspended Morgan's account, citing its hateful conduct policy.
Policy argument is based on fact, statistical analysis, and historical trends. With just a few days before the election, they knew what they were doing intentionally. And now after they did it, after they got their hand caught in the cookie jar, it's disingenuous saying they made an error.
Many prominent Republicans are also incredulous over what they're calling clear bias against the Trump administration.
Years ago, Greenwald co-founded a news site called The Intercept. Today he resigned. In a statement, Greenwald explained why. Quote, "The Intercept's editors, in violation of my contractual right of editorial freedom, censored an article I wrote this week, refusing to publish it unless I removed all sections critical of Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden, the candidate vehemently supported by all New York-based Intercept editors involved in this effort at suppression."
That at the very outlet that I co-created, that was built on my reputation, my credibility, my journalistic accomplishments, then tried to intervene to censor me 6 days before an election because I wanted to publish reporting and analysis about the evidence that raises serious questions about the conduct of the candidate that all of the editors at that outlet vehemently and enthusiastically support. The CIA, from the very first days of the Trump administration, even before he was inaugurated, devoted themselves to sabotaging the administration because Donald Trump questioned just a few of their pieties, and that can't be done in Washington. Whoever does that must be destroyed. And so the CIA and the deep state operatives became heroes of the liberal left, the people who support the Democratic Party. They're now in a full union with the neocons, the Bush-Cheney operatives, the CIA, Silicon Valley, and Wall Street. That is the union of power, along with mainstream media outlets that are fully behind the Democratic Party, which is likely to at least take over one branch of government, if not all of them, in the coming election. And that is a very alarming proposition because they're authoritarian, they believe in censorship, and they believe in suppression of information that exposes them in any kind of a critical light.
If someone told you just a few years ago about the level of censorship we are now experiencing in the nation, you would have not believed them. Only time will tell if we will continue down this road of censorship or turn it around like the Trump prophecy says. Let's hope and pray the remaining part of the Trump prophecy comes true, that Trump gets reelected, and that we experience a fundamental change with our media for the next 4 years. Whether or not we follow politics or not, or if we are Republicans or Democrats, by now we should all know the choice that is currently staring us in the face this coming election day. On one side we have a DC insider who is a very corrupt politician and has the media on his side that will do anything they can to protect him and hide his corruption from the American people. Or the clear outsider who for the last 4 years has done everything he can to end the corruption and to make America great again. Ice Cube's dad was right. No matter who the president is, we all still have to go to work the next day. However, the next 4 years of getting up and going to work every morning will feel a lot different depending on who the next president is. Either our president will be a corrupt politician again, or the outsider who for the last 4 years has done everything he can to end the corruption and make America great again. Maybe someday, fake news will be a thing of the past. I would be so thankful if you could help me by sharing this video. Oh, and please subscribe to the House of History channel below if you want to see more videos like this. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for taking the time.